How's up, everyone? It's your boy, SOTHAT! And today, we're going to have a little discussion of some of my favorite characters in Fire Emblem and some weapon refineries that we've just gotten. So first, let's start things off with Emmeryn, the brain damage one. You see, brain damage path here suffers maximum brain damage after falling off a cliff while doing a little bit of diving with her buddy Gangrel. Well, it seemed that she would not recover, but thankfully, thanks to all the love and care that Gangrel has given her over the years, she miraculously recovered from her brain damage state and now comes to Fire Emblem Heroes as a 162 BST infantry healer. The only one who could do that was Silk not too long ago, and so we now have a reliable, decently fast healer at 34 speed. 34 is pretty fast. I mean, the only one that can match it is 35 with Loki, I think. But that was the speed, the title previously held by the Demon Maria, a terrifying demon. And you know what? Voiced by Wendy Lee. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if she's an evolution of the Demon Maria or something like that. I mean, it makes perfect sense. She beats her in pretty much all categories of stats. Higher attack, higher... well, the speed is the same, but higher health. Defense, probably a little bit more. I don't even know, but all I know is just that her stats are so much more than that of Maria's. And five of those dragon flowers is not going to make up for it. It's pretty terrible. So anyway, being said, she's a pretty average character, even though with all this BST, because she, unlike Silk, does not have any focus on her stats. Still, I think that might not be a bad thing, because now we could at least not have her get double, because healers, they're kind of most of the time what healers really just do is just attack someone, and that's pretty much it. They don't get counterattacked, and then that's pretty much it. Razzle dazzle, ruin their days. And you know what? She should be using gravity. She should have gravity plus instead of like fear plus me. I mean, I guess the fear plus me runs in a family. I mean, and you look at Derpy Path, the evil Lissa, who also suffers from brain damage and become a derpy person, uses this horrible staff to increase her defenses artificially. And that is one of the things that Emmeryn can do, but I think that nowadays, with all this penalty running around, you probably don't need to be the one doing it. It's not like back in 2017, 2018, things are a little different, so you probably should just end up using the Pain Plus. But no, you should really use Gravity. You should use Gravity. If I were to build Emmeryn, right, I would use Gravity, and I would just use that stupid attack speed push that I have, because Emmeryn can reach a decent speed with plus speed IVs, or just give her plus attack or something like that, and just what I'll do is just attack someone, bash them over the head, and then someone will drag me back, and then my Gravity will do the deed. It'll make them feel, understand Emmeryn's pain when she falls and crushed her skull on the pavement a little bit ago. So using Gravity, that is how they'll do it, and she'll literally crush the enemy to death. I mean, there's not too many ways you can save yourself from it unless you have a healer who could fix this problem. And most people I see in the arena and like in well, not Aether Raids. Aether Raids, I see a couple healers from here and there, but most people don't seem to run healers, I find. I don't know why. I guess healers aren't that devastating, but that's not true, because healers are scary as hell. If something like this happens, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people get stuck with Gravity, and what ends up happening is that some friends Wings of Mercy in, and they can't do anything about it because they're stuck. You have to get something to fix it, and the only thing that could really do it is restore. I suppose Harsh Command could do it too, right? But yeah, restore is probably your best bet on the matter. I don't know how many people have Harsh Command Plus. A little hard to come by, so And I don't even remember if it fixes. I think it does. I just can't remember. I don't use it all that much. Anyway, so Emmeryn, being that she has much superior stats compared to that of Maria, she still has 32 attack, and honestly, that's really kind of enough, what I want to say, because with the attack speed push and all that fun jazz, you can do enough damage so that you can just keep trailing the enemy around and crush them to death. Of course, it would be better if you run Pain Plus and just kill them straight off after a couple dances. Anything is possible. I don't even do Arena Assault anymore, but when I did do Arena Assault, every one of my team has two dancers. I have 2 healers, 2 dancers, and when the time comes, hey, my Arena Assault team just completely obliterates any enemies because healers are really, really strong if they have no BST restrictions. That's the only reason why that arena probably doesn't have that many healers, because they're kind of hard to run. And they're not as devastating. I don't know. I just don't see people running healers even when they should be. I don't know why, because it's like one of the key things to defeat one of my defenses. Actually, both of my defenses. If people use healers more, they might actually find that I'm actually pretty weak to my own techniques. But anyway, I gotta stop talking about Emmeryn. I mean, like, yeah, there's only so much I can do with a character that has a pretty a flat, evenly distributed stats as a healer. But I think the only thing she needs really patching up is her defense. And if you were to do what I do with Dr. Sakura, I suppose you could give her something like, I don't know, a bonus doubler to give her stats all across the board. I mean, she already has flat stats, so this works out very well. Otherwise, you have to find some other means to increase her defense, but it's not really my style. I think she's got enough health to give her enough bulk. Not to mention, like I said, most of the time you're just going to be using Razzle Dazzle anyway. You can just ignore their counterattacks. Not too many people run no counter, first of all, because no counter is not as readily available, and also it only counters like certain things. Of course, once we get to Weapon Refinery, we might find instances where having some kind of ways to stop enemy that can stop counterattack would be a pretty good thing. But I mean, I guess I do see it on bikes when they come to attack, but generally I don't see it like on defense or arena or something like that. Generally they use something else, like fighter skills or something like that. Alright, so anyway, let's move on to the next character. Let's move on to our pal Gangrel, who is taking great care of our Exalt and is now bestest of friends. So Gangrel, unfortunately, I have to say I'm not too impressed with him. Now his stats are okay, I guess. I mean, his stats are pretty much what you'd expect from a dagger. His attack is kind of low at 32. Speed is at 38, which is pretty good. His defense, resistance at 24, 27. There's like, but whatever. And then there's a 45 HP thing, and then that's pretty much it. So in terms of stats, not very impressive. So he's probably going to be carried by his Levin Dagger, and even then, the Levin Dagger is kind of. So here's the thing, right? So when penalty is active on the enemy, our pal with the Levin Dagger gets 4 to all stats, and will be able to do damage equals to 20% of units res. So kind of like really miniature iceberg on each attack, which is adorable, but it really isn't all that much. Because think about it for a second here. The man has 27 resistance, right? If he were to equip his weapon, which comes with +3, he goes to 30. I suppose if he gets his 4 to all stats, he would get 34. So if you were to make it into 20%, that would be... Can't do my math. It's like 7 damage. 7... Can't do my math. Uh-oh. Alright, okay, alright. Let me think about it. 34... So 3... yeah, a little bit more. You can probably add up to 7 extra damage. Then again, you also have to add the fact that he gets 4 to all stats, so it's not just 7, more like 11. I mean, it's decent. It's decent. It's not bad. But then you also have to consider that there are characters such as Saizo out there who has his weapon that gives penalty doubler. Well, if the enemy is penalized anyway, which gives a significant amount of stats as well. Though he doesn't have the 20% extra damage, it's also kind of I just don't see it as that significant because, well, Saizo himself is not all that strong to begin with, but compared to Saizo, you can actually, I would say they're about even. I would say that they're not that much different. But, see, the thing is that Saizo also inflicts a lot of debuff on top of getting his bonus debuff doubler. So I would say they're about even, but the problem is being even isn't enough because our pal here is meant to do some decent chunks of damage with his effect, but that effect's damage is not as much as you would think. I think that if you were to instead use Broadleaf Fan, there we have something we can kind of talk about. Broadleaf Fan is a pretty scary technique, I have to say. Broadleaf Fan does a lot of extra damage, and as long as Broadleaf Fan is there, you would have to compare yourself to Broadleaf Fan. I mean, I wouldn't say that this little extra damage is completely like bad or anything. It's just that, I don't know, when it comes to using a dagger, there's either let's go and kill people before they can touch me with Gay Clown Kronyab. Then there is Broadleaf Fan, let's do chunks of damage. And then there is our pal Saizo, and let's debuff the shit out of our enemies. Levin Dagger here is like right in the middle between Saizo's dagger and Broadleaf Fan, which I'm not sure how much I actually like with that. I suppose, though, having 6 to all debuffs to enemy could be better for the rest of your team, because this penalty increasing for 4 to all stats is really just for Gangrel himself. The more I think about it, I feel like, I'm not too impressed. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say that it's a good weapon, but I just can't. I feel like there's something missing here. I suppose if we were to stack his defense up a little bit more, like raise his resistance, let me think about it. I mean, I'm not doing the math correctly here. I mean, we have the 11. If we add the 4 res, we could maybe squeeze it to 12 extra damage. I mean, I suppose I could see it working. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could work like that, yeah. Yeah. But generally, when I don't know, when I use a dagger with an ability like that, I would carry Vantage, and I would hope that when I Vantage someone, I would crush them to death. So, and it's not like our pal is particularly tanky, so he's not like Saizo. But then again, Saizo has like no resistance, so there's also that. I suppose if his A, B, and C slots are sufficient, like if he came in with bonus doubler or something like that, or I don't know, like something stupid like close foil, maybe he could actually perform a better tanking deal than Saizo. Maybe that would work. But I say that right now, I'm not too particularly impressed. I feel like if you give him a lot of care, like he did with Emmeryn, I would say that maybe he can be really good, but he definitely need a lot of investment to get to that point. Still, with flat stats like that, I think it might be possible. It's just a little bit unfortunate that he doesn't have any damage reduction beyond defenses and such, so you're going to need to seriously buff up his stats. And a toy like bonus doubler would be advisable, or something that doesn't have to rely on like visible buffs, because those can turn against you. Maybe like Fortress Dev Res could work, but Fortress Dev Res, maybe Fury, maybe just plain Fury would be best. Yeah, it might be better that way. Anyway, that's pretty much all I could say about our pal Gangrel for the moment. Now let's go and have a little chat about the weapon refinery. Yeah. So the first weapon, let's talk about Clarisse, because Clarisse's weapon is actually pretty big deal to me anyway, because Clarisse, for one, is easily plus 10, and two, Clarisse's technique is very similar to the 6 Paths of Pain Plus. So being effective against flying foes is one thing, and then there's also the whole thing where, oh yeah, if you attack, you deal 7 damage to across the board, and you also affect them with attack and speed -7. So it's basically fear plus and slow plus combined with pain plus. Well, except the pain isn't as painful as pain plus, but still, all this combined is actually pretty terrifying, because we just discussed about debuffing enemy ridiculously with Sizel and Gangrel and such like that. A toy like this, say if they work together, if our pal Clarisse and Gangrel work together, they would do really good. As a matter of fact, I think that might be ideal. So her ability that she gains on top of that is that at the start of combat, if her health is greater than 50%, she gets attack and speed +4, and if she's within 2 spaces of a support partner, foes cannot counterattack. So our classic razzle dazzle, 7 damage, yada yada, and more damage for her, and attack and speed -7. Clarisse's bow is absolutely amazing as well. In this case, Sniper's bow now. It's absolutely amazing, and makes it very worthwhile to use Clarisse. I might just actually plus 10, I'll think about it, because I absolutely love 6 Paths of Pain plus techniques. And I also absolutely love the fact that, well, you rely on a support partner. So if, like, Clarisse and Gangrel work together, they can do well. If Clarisse worked together with Sizel, they would do well. Anything that you use, well, it's just any dagger, really, that works with debuffs, they can do well. So Clarisse is definitely a good unit to go ahead and start a battle with. Inflict some debuffs, and then your pal partner daggers goes in, does extra damage or extra tankiness or whatever, debuff the unit some more, or just simply crush them into dust. One of the above. And you know what? Having 7 less HP means that, well, they're gonna have a much harder time surviving something from a broadleaf fan or something or the other. I think that she's definitely a great candidate for more Savage Blows, and I hope that Savage Blow gets Savage Blow 4. But I'll probably end up putting on a healer, huh? Well, Clarisse is a good unit, so there's that. Anyway, let's talk about the next person. Let's talk about Doga with his stalwart sword, Draug. So Draug here, when foe attacks him, he inflicts attack -6. So basically his defense is increased, dev res increased by +6. How wonderful! And if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets even more attack and defends for himself and neutralizes his unit's penalties. So if someone decides to weaken his attack or his defense, so they can go fuck the right off. That's pretty much it, I guess. I mean, it's good against characters like Clarisse, like we just discussed, who would weaken the attack. And if your debuff gets neutralized, broadleaf fans and such don't do as much damage as well, so it could be very handy. Like I said before, with the whole Sizel thing, with the Gangrel thing, the debuffs can also be kind of unwieldy, especially if you were to come across characters such as this. Luckily for us, our pal Doga here only neutralizes 2, unlike goddamn Edun or Brunya, who can just kind of erase all of it. Ike doesn't erase it, but he does get a lot of stats on top of it. So if you were just relying on the debuff itself, it won't be enough. But if you have like, I don't know, Broadleaf Fan that increased damage using the debuff, then it'll work out. But oh, now I suppose that's one thing that Gangrel has over Sizo, huh? Yeah, there's that. Indeed. But it's not really that much damage. It's still damage though, so I can't say no. But the problem is that our pal Gangrel doesn't have much attack, and well, I suppose 32 is passable. Honestly, it's not that bad. 32 is actually kind of passable. But he doesn't get like plus attack IVs or something like that. It's passable, and if the enemy is sufficiently weakened enough from like Clarisse's bow, it works out. But against our pal Doga here, Doga will not just choke this point. Doga would choke the shit out of you. He would just literally put his goddamn hand on your neck and just choke slam your ass over and over again until you die. That is Stalwart Sword. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's really not all that interesting. Just like Doga himself is not all that interesting to me. Let's move on. Let's have a little chat about Dragonino, Myrrh and Great Flame. The Great Flame. Well, the Great Flame is the way it was still. If you have more defense, hey, you can't make a follow-up attack. That's great. And then there is, at the start of combat, if my HP is above 25% and I'm within 2 space of an ally, which is very easy to do, you get 5 to all stats. Oh, hey, guess what? I get to neutralize another guaranteed follow-up attack. Well, it's a guaranteed follow-up attack. It doesn't... It's not like how... Great Flame like stops follow-up attack, period. So you have to consider this as something that counters Great Flame. Like I don't know about no follow-up though. I don't see no follow-up working against that. See, the thing is with no follow-up is that no follow-up doesn't guarantee a follow-up attack. It just negates things that negates follow-up attack. It's kind of messy, but you get what I mean. No follow-up would completely destroy this weapon, but anything else, say for example an armor unit with Bold Fighter, well, they can't do that. They can't just use that to bypass the Great Flame if they have higher speed, which is pretty funny. I like that a lot. So if you have a speedy armor coming up against Myrrh, and Myrrh is like, oh, I'm slow, double me, but you can't double me now after this, you have more defense than you. Oh, but hey, I have Bold Fighter. Oh, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I also have this fun little ability that allows me to neutralize your guaranteed neutralize follow-up, yabba 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 yabba. And now all of a sudden, that horrible person can only hit once, and Myrrh just goes and uses Quick Repose and eats his face, and that's the end of that. So there you have it. I mean, Myrrh can actually reach a pretty decent speed. Myrrh may not be like super fast or anything, but if you were to invest on it, and the fact that she gets 5 to all stats, she actually could reach a pretty decent speed. And you also have to consider that Myrrh is a Fafnir kind of dragon. She flies. So being a flying dragon means that if you have like some other stupid flying units nearby with gold flyers, she suddenly has like 1,000,000 attack speed. It's actually pretty scary. I would not underestimate Myrrh in any way. Myrrh is a very powerful unit, and thanks to this update, she now have many different ways to stop enemies from hitting her twice. And it's probably never going to happen ever now, because back then, let's say if I were to use something like... No, I just don't see someone doing that. No, I can't imagine someone doing that. Like, there are some people who would just do 2 follow-up attacks. Like, it's a build that I used to run. Like, for something like something that guarantees double attack, I would still give them the Brash Assault and the Desperation thing, so that they have 2 of them to negate someone who would otherwise not be able to do that. It's like Worry Fighter Warrior Fighter armor or Myrrh, I would just negate that negating follow-up thing. But yeah, now they have this as an extra insurance. I even think that's kind of overkill, but no, there you have it. You can't double Myrrh. How wonderful. Isn't that great? And then some. I mean, having extra HP, having extra defense and resistance. She's just so tanky. It's going to be really tough to defeat this horrible monstrosity. I think this is a great refinery for Myrrh. Honestly, all these refineries now are amazing. Especially with Clarisse's refinery. Clarisse's refinery makes me think, you know, what is the deal with the refineries in the first year? Or not the first year, but you know, the first set of refineries that we've got. Like, our pal Jaffar has a similar ability, but it's outdated. It's completely outdated compared to this. It doesn't have like this whole thing where you guarantee that your foe cannot counterattack. Whereas with Jaffar, it's like, oh yeah, if you were a tome, then you can't counterattack. His attack is low. He can do the 6 paths of pain plus, but it's not really all that great. And he's still a 5-star exclusive. So yeah, I think our pal Jaffar here is due for a refinery on top of his refinery, don't you think? At any rate, let's talk about one last person. You know, our pal Donnell. Donnie here, he still keeps his brave lands. It's called homelands now, and well, if he initiates, he does a little bit more damage, and cannot make a follow-up attack, so it's basically sturdy impact light. That's really cute. I mean, it's very plain. It does extra damage with it, but it works out, so I'm not going to complain. It's a very plain weapon. It fits perfectly for a character such as him. It makes him scary, and that's really all you could really put up with. I mean, he's like the original guy who has extra BST, but now that extra BST that he has means jack shickety diggity shit. It doesn't mean anything now. So yeah, really the only thing you can rely on if you were to use this is his attack and his defense or his resistance. It's kind of bad. His speed, whatever average speed that he has, is tossed away by this lands. But otherwise, I suppose it'll give him a good player face presence, if anything, but it's really not anything special. It's very dull, just like him. You know, in Awakening, even though I know that he has a great potential and all that, I just never really liked him because he's so dull. I guess the one time that I like him is when he looked at a stick on the ground. He's like, "Oh, what in tarnation? I didn't see this shit in the fucking farm before. Or a stick? Oh boy!" And then that was the one time I chuckled and I thought that was kind of funny, and then that was pretty much it. I think I like Kellum more than him, and that's pretty bad. Kellum of his like one meme. Oh yeah, no one can see me. Nobody who knows who the fuck I am. I like him more than Donnie. I don't, don't at me, honestly. Don't even begin to at me. It's just my personal opinion. Anyway, I think a little fun discussion time is over. I thank you all for joining with me, So That, cousin of So This, in our wonderful little discussion of Emmeryn and pals. Honestly, I wouldn't even be doing this for this because I've got a lot of work I still need to do. But well, Emmeryn is a favorite character of mine, and the whole brain damage thing that she ends up getting is kind of like my deal. So I guess I have no choice but to end up making a video about her. Anyway, I thank you all for watching. Until next time.